questions. Terrence Williams has a knee injury, probably 3 to 6 weeks. So we'll miss him this week, obviously, and we'll try to get him healed up for the off week following this game. Garrett Davis, hate for him, and he's worked so hard coming back his senior year. Was poised to have a great year. Broke his foot, and it's estimated 8 weeks. Could possibly be back for a bowl game. It just depends on how his surgery goes tomorrow. But just, keep him in your prayers more. He's just been a great person for our football team and has really worked his tail off. And hate that his senior year he's having to go through this. But I wanted to start off and let y'all know about those injuries before we get rolling.
No option for medical issue for him, right? You have to.
We're exploring all the language in that. There's a lot of different things that go into that. It's not really our decision, it's NCAA decision, but our compliance office, and we're working through those things and trying to see if that's a possibility for him.
Major, before we move on from the injury, Courtney had come out of the game. It looked like his shoulder was, I don't know, it looked like he had to have it pop back in. Is that okay, or is he not on one of the guys on the list?
He took a shot on the shoulder. He didn't have to have it pop back in. He just took a hit on the shoulder, finished the game, played well as he finished the game, was out there at practice yesterday. And while we're talking about injuries, that's a physical game. It's a long game. 109 snaps on defense, 93 snaps on offense, a lot of plays, a lot of physical plays, and all those guys were out at practice yesterday. So that told me a lot. That's one thing you look at after a loss is who's out there at practice and who's over there licking their wounds in the corner. So it's good to see all those guys out there.
Major, coming off of the game afterwards, Ed said that after a loss like that, you have to go two directions. You see a team that bounces back, or you see one that just falls down after enduring that. What did you see, at least yesterday, when they got back and kind of the mental part of it, wanting to move on and get that taste out of their mouth?
I saw a team that was agitated, ticked off. You can use a lot of other expletives, but that's really where our team was yesterday. And they were that way in the locker room. And I saw it in their eyes, and they played hard. There's a difference between playing hard and playing well. We didn't play well at all times, but they played hard. And you turn on the tape and you watch the onside kick at the end of the game, and you see Ed Oliver and you see Terry Mark 100 miles an hour going after a loose ball with Bryson Smith. So you see the effort, even when the game's kind of somewhat been determined. You just saw that same mentality in the locker room, fully expected to win, prepared to win, and ticked off that they didn't win. And so that's your response as a coach on a Sunday is who's going to walk through the door and what are they selling. And when you look at their body language and how they approach practice and how they come to meetings, they're irritated. They wanted to do better. They wanted to win. So you just saw clenched jaws and guys ready to go to practice, and you didn't see a bunch of guys standing over on the sideline in yellow jerseys saying they're hurt. You saw guys who couldn't move their arms because they played 109 snaps on defense going out through practice. And this is a really good football team. That's what I told them. I was proud of the way you fought, not always proud of the way we played and coached, but proud of the way you fought, and we've got a really good team. And the guys feel that in our locker room, and they feel that there's a difference between last year after a loss and this year, and it hurt, and let it hurt. Let it sting, and let it tick you off and get ready to go. And we've got a great opportunity this week to be 3-1, and then have an off week, and then go into conference with confidence and momentum and healed up and ready to go win our conference.
Coach, what were some of the challenges you guys faced trying to create pressure up front in the Tech game? I know that was something you guys probably would have been after you struggled a little bit on. What are some of the hurdles you guys had to get over in order to try to create a little pressure on the quarterback?
Well, twofold. It's either him or me, so you got to give him some credit. So they played well. I mean, they played an offensive line with 4 or 5 starters returning, 82 starts amongst them. They played well. They're a good offensive line, but you've got to win your one-on-one battles. You're going to get matched up one-on-one. The scheme's going to design to get you one-on-one with somebody, and you've got to defeat your opponent. There's 1,000 different ways to draw it up. At the end of the day, it's about beating another man and getting to the quarterback. And so we've got to execute our job, and then we've got to put those guys in the right position to do that. And that's what we talked about yesterday and this morning is you've got to have that parental coaching type relationship in terms of what can I do to get my child prepared or to get my player prepared. And if he's not ready for the situation, don't put him in, put another one in. And if it's not the player, it's the scheme, or we asking him to do something that he can't do, let's put ourselves at the forefront of it, and let's make those decisions as we go forward. It was very obvious that we didn't tackle very well. That's the easy thing. When you don't play well on defense, you come out and you say, we didn't take the ball away, we didn't tackle. That's common. It's been said for 1,000 years in football. So you understand that. I got that. What are we? Is it the guy? All right, well, then we need to replace it. If it's not the guy, then what are we doing? What are we coaching? Do we need to coach it better? Do we need to drill it better? Do we need take some of this off of his plate so he can play cleaner and faster. But in terms of the pressure to the quarterback, some of it was not winning your one-on-one battles, some of it was execution, and some of it you come out of the game and you say, we need to do more of this and do less of that.
On the missed tackles, Major, is there a solution? You go back and you look, and about probably all of them were probably 3 or 4 yard gains that led to the big 50-yarders. Have you seen it? Is it the technique? Are you going to have to make some wholesale changes? That kind of stuff. What is the solution there?
Technique, gathering your feet and understanding where the ball is in relation to where you are. There's some tackles. I can think of Alex Myers over there on their sideline one time, another one on our sideline. It's a bang place. The ball's there, bam. The tackle's right on the spot. And there's times where you can unload on those type of plays, and there's times where the guy catches the ball with 4 or 5 yards of cushion, and you've got to have your eyes on his hips, and you've got to slow your feet, and you've got to limit the yards after the catch. You can be super aggressive and go fire your cap, but you better hit it because there's nobody else behind you. So you've got to be able to understand what kind of tackling position you need to be in based on your distance from the ball carrier. So there's some technique things that we have to go back and address from there, and that's the issue. Not just say, hey, it's tackling. How are we going to fix this? And how are we going to drill this? And at what depth is this guy going to be when he catches the ball and we tell our defender to go? And how many live reps are we going to get at it? Because that's how we're going to get better. Not just, we got to tackle better.
You talked about the physicality of the game on Saturday. How much does a game like that kind of show you where your weak spots are as far as depth? I know that's an issue that probably you guys talk about all offseason as far as trying to build the depth and all that. How much is a game like that when it's just basically all out every play?
Yeah, just on the sideline, I'm watching their defense sub. Mass subs. And they're playing more guys on their defense than we were able to play on our defense. And so the first thing that hits you is recruiting. We've got to continue to build our team and recruit. And then we also have to continue to play more players. If we're going to play more snaps, then we're going to have to play more players. Just simply, it's that obvious. When you play more snaps, more guys are going to have to get into the football game. So that's where you have to develop your depth. And we've got some injury issues that we've got to figure out in terms of who's going to be the starter now. But beyond that, we've got to develop the 2s and 3s behind them. And this goes back to, I've said it before, but this goes back to when we were talking in June and July during summer. We're going to need everybody in the season. And that's the reality in chasing the conference championship is when you get down to week 9, 10, 11, and 12, you're probably not going to be playing the same 22 you started back in September with. So that's where our focus is, and we've got to make those 2s and 3s better, and we've got to understand what kind of game it's going to be.
Major, you mentioned earlier back-to-back weeks where I think the opponents had 100 or more plays 2 weeks in a row. Everybody knows what this offense is capable of and the quick strike capability. I think you had the ball for 27 minutes,
25.
maybe 25. At some point, if your defense is having maybe trouble getting off the field,
right.
Do you make adjustments? I don't want to say do you stop scoring fast, but
right.
is there a way around that, or is there something that you have to do with this offense to supplement what's maybe not happening on defense?
Yeah, I'm not trying to be curt or simple, but your job as an offense is to score one more point than our defense gives up. And your job as a defense to hold 1 point less. And the reality of that game is we started off the first 6 drives of the game. We had 4 stops out of 6 drives. We've got to score. We've got to score there. And in the second half, when you get 2 or 3 stops, we've got to convert 4th down and score. It's going to be a shootout. Surprise, we're in Lubbock. Playing an air raid offense. Surprise. It's that kind of game. So we've got to be able to answer those scores. And then from a time of possession standpoint, we've got to run the football better. We've got to run the football better as an offense. It's great to be explosive, but there's times where you need to control the game, and running for 2.4 yards a carry and 99 yards is not going to get it done. We've got to run the ball better. And I'm not trying to, poo-poo on the offense. That's not my point. The point is we have to understand who we are on both sides of the ball, and when you start getting up around 109, 103 snaps, there comes some times where you've got to be able to run the ball effectively to take some time off the clock.
Segue into the running game now that Terrence is out.
Right.
You've used Patrick, you've used Moba. Does that bump up somebody like a Kevin because you want to use 3 or 4, or who else now kind of jumps up?
That's where the depth chart is in terms of Patrick, being our starter, Moba rolling in with him, Kevin be the 3rd back off the bench, Keelan Walker, Chandler Smith, both of those guys, 4 and 5 will have opportunity to play as well. Jonathan Phoenix, because of some injuries at corner, We're just trying to find the quickest way to get Jonathan on the field, so he needs to be able to go back to corner and work there, and let's see where the injury, the depth is at running back before we get back into conference play. So, kind of putting Jonathan over there with the corners gives us some depth right in there at corner right now. And if Terrence comes back on time, then he can stay there. But if we have some issues with Terrence as he comes back, then Jonathan's going to have to move back before we go into conference and get some reps there.
And Glee said, what did you got thrown in there. What were your impressions of Gleason and moving forward? You can't replace a guy like Garrett, but just what you're going to need now out of that position.
Yeah, you lose a lot of experience, with a guy like Garrett, who's seen 1,000 curl flats and 1,000 bubble screens, and he's just, had so much experience out there playing the game. You lose that. One thing I saw from Gleason is he came up and he hit people. He came up and he tackled people, and he enjoys the game and he loves the game. And I imagine he'll have a great curve in terms of his learning because he does love the game so much. And Coach Morgan does a great job with him, and he made some great plays. There's some things on just in terms of communication and alignment, things like that have to continue to get better as he gets repetitions. But he's engaged the game. He loves the game. He loves to play the game physically. And he likes to get out there with his teammates. He's just one of those guys that has that spirit about him on the field. You can feel the guys that really love the game and enjoy it, and he's one like that. So he'll take the coaching, and we'll see him improve as the season goes on.
Any thoughts on Texas Southern, kind of what they have? It's kind of a unique situation. They're only a few blocks away, but you guys never really play. Just thoughts on them, and then I believe right now one of their leading guys is a guy who actually spent a little time here, Condavian Dixon. I'm just wondering what you know of him and then that team in general.
I worked for Mike Haywood. Mike was the running back coach at Texas whenever I was a grad assistant there in the early 2000s. So I know Coach Haywood. I know his football philosophy. In terms of toughness, running the football, being an aggressive defense, but also being smart from a defensive standpoint. He's got skilled players like Trendavian. We got a couple of wideouts that are really good football players that you have to make sure you have a plan for. But I know how they're going to be coached and understand, what you're going to be presented from Mike Haywood. I mean, he's a very detailed coach. His team's going to play with great discipline. They're going to be a little bit different than what we faced offensively last week. They're a huddle team as opposed to 109 snaps. So we've got to kind of go back into that mode of not playing as fast as the defense, which is easier to get lined up for. But he does a great job, and we'll have a challenge Saturday.
Anything else?
Major, it's never about one guy on defense, but what they did with the quick outs and stuff, kind of neutralizing what you could do on the pass rush, especially with Ed, him getting kind of keeping the ball away from him. Is that something that moving forward, how do you, it probably won't be the last time you see that. Is that something that, how do you approach that, or how can you?
That's it. You just answered the question. In terms of they're not going to run the A and B gaps. They're going to play the game outside. So guess what? Guess where we need to be strong? We need to be strong outside. And it's part of knowing who you are and knowing what you are and what your opponent sees of you. And so that's why we're going to have to go back to work, get better outside, and understand they're not going to cram it in the A and B gaps, guys. They're going to play the game on the edge. And we need to play better on the edge. We need to tackle better on the edge. And we got to have a better plan than what we had last Saturday. Is that it? Thank you all. Appreciate it.